All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this Tuesday. Had a couple people joining immediately. Still looks like there's some more folks coming on, so we'll give it a minute. But yeah, thank you all for being here today. We have the one and only our special Nathan Long, the president of Quest Trust Company, actually going to be doing a presentation called kNOw, talking about what to do and what not to do with your self-directed IRA. So kind of if you're a fan of puns, what to Dr. No or no, however you want to put it. My name is Colin Taylor. I'm actually one of the IRA specialists here at Quest. I'm just going to be doing a quick intro and then I'll be helping to moderate. So kind of as Nathan goes through, if you've got questions, please put them down in that chat box. And guys, I'll make sure Nathan addresses those, or if it's just questions I can answer, I'll just respond back in the chat. So feel free to ask any questions and put them there throughout the webinar as we proceed. And I'll kind of go ahead and get started here. So just to give a quick disclaimer, right? If you guys are familiar with Quest, if you've watched our videos before, attended our events, you've definitely heard this. Quest does not provide any sort of tax, legal, or investment advice. So please keep that in mind as we go through, right? This is really for the purposes of your education and to help you guys expand your knowledge, okay? So proceed with that as such. The next thing is a little bit about who is Quest for those who are not familiar with us. So we are one of the largest self-directed IRA custodians in the state of Texas. Now we don't just operate in Texas. We have clients across the nation. So not necessarily just limited to Texas. And then we do have about, I think it's closer now to maybe 24,000 active investor clients within the United States, right? So I mentioned I'm not just located here in Texas, although that's where all of our offices are located. We have about $2 billion in assets under administration. That's actually closer to 3 now. These numbers need to be updated, I see. Right around 2.7 billion in assets under administration with 110-ish employees, 115, 34 of which do have a Certified IRA Services Professional designation. So basically what that is, it's a pretty intense certification process that you have to go through as far as studying, as far as the testing. It's a several-hour exam that you have to take to get that Certified IRA Services Professional tag, or CISP as we call it. So that's just a little bit about Quest. If you do, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, that's awesome. If you don't, I certainly recommend doing that, guys. We post all of our education, so the recording of this webinar will be on those pages. You can watch the videos again, or maybe if you missed it and you're watching it, watching the recording live, happy to have you here. So yeah, check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Some of the other things that we do on a consistent basis as far as education, we have a lot of classes and webinars that we offer, right? Where we'll bring on different investment topic experts. Some of the other IRA specialists will come on and do webinars, such as myself. We do one of those once a week every Saturday at 12 p.m. Central Time, 12 to 1, where we'll typically have some different expert on a different alternative investment topic to speak. That's what's most common. You can see all this stuff on our website. Talks about each one of the different events we have coming up. Two other things I want to run through really quick are the Masters of Tax Avoidance Boot Camp. This is for those of you who are in person or located in Houston. This is an only in-person event that we have coming up the last day of March. It'll be a Tuesday, I believe. I want to say it's March 30th. That's going to be a day-long event. I want to say tickets are around $150, somewhere in that range. Let us know if that's something you're interested in doing. Reach out to myself, anybody, on the IRA specialist team, or even on our marketing team. We can certainly help kind of talk to you guys about that. But it's really looking at how to use your self-directed IRA for these alternative investments. And this specific boot camp is going to be more geared towards oil and gas investing. So you can see more details about that on our website, and I certainly recommend checking that out. The last thing, guys, if you're not a current client of Quest, we are offering a promotion right now for those of you who do open your accounts before the end of March. If you fund it before the tax filing deadline, so April, I guess technically it's before April 15th, although the deadline is 18th this year, we're going to credit you guys $125 to your account kind of as a little incentive, right, for people to start contributing, making those contributions before the tax filing deadline. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. The last thing, guys, if you have questions, whether, it may be an hour after the presentation, you think of something, give us a call. You can shoot me an email. My email is there. Or if you are curious, more about the promotion or the Master of Tax Avoidance Bootcamp, let us know what all we can help with. Happy to answer any questions, assist you guys in, starting to make some alternative investments and using a self-directed IRA. So please let us know how we can help. I will go ahead and take my presentation down and bring Nathan in here.
Hey, Colin, I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Nathan. Really excited for this topic, and I'll kind of let you just jump into it.
All right, cool. This speech, honestly, and a little bit of a tribute to my brother. My brother Quincy is a very, very good investor. He's a wise person in a lot of ways. And most people, I've got to shirt tail on top of my older brother and able to coattail my investments by things that he knew and understand. And that was really helpful to me as I did. I didn't have to go through. So around the office, we have a little, we call them Quincyism, things that Quincy always says or whatever. So I thought I'd just share some of those with you, a little bit of humor. But everyone knows Quincy knows a lot. I mean, he really does know a lot. We like to call him Dr. Know. Okay. He is a doctor of jurisprudence. Oh boy, I butchered that. He does have not only a regular law degree, but a master's in law. He knows, and Quincy knows a lot, but he also, like we say, he says know a lot. So that's why we call him Dr. Know, little pun. So how did Quincy get to be so smart? Well, guys, here's the secret. He did a whole bunch of dumb things, like a lot of the rest of us, right? So, but he also took a lot of time to educate himself, and me too. Sometimes after the fact, the best lessons in life are the ones that you learn the hardest. And so sometimes if we could just take those lessons from people who have already been there, or smart people with a good moral conscience, I think that we would all be a lot further along. Often we tend to ignore those people in our lives, but things. So this is a class of Quincyisms, quotes from Quincy that we should all probably follow. All right. Quote 1, know your investment and understand it. And he also says, know your investor better. In other words, don't only look at the investment itself, look at the character of the person you're choosing to do business with. One's character is often not easily revealed. All right. I can tell you that sometimes the biggest scammers sound the best. They look the best. They're polished at doing it, right? And then it's honestly very hard to see them as doing something evil or bad often. We often want to think the best about people. It's just human nature. So instead of using your own judgment, make sure that you follow certain rules, right? When you're doing the first judgment, first deal with someone especially, or first few deals, I would say, you want to take time to get to know them, right? Ask a lot of questions. Ask them about previous deals. Ask them if they know other people that have things, right? Often your personal feelings about the person are wrong. Do not use that as a guide as to whether you invest or not. Whether you like them or not shouldn't be the guide. It's nice to do business with someone you like. I like to like the people I like with, but I try to pull that out because I might be wrong about that person. These are great questions to ask. And one of my favorites is the first one. So you want to use my money, right? Here's your investment. Sounds good. What happens when it goes wrong? And shut up and listen to the answer. What happens is people who are good long-term investors answer this question really pretty quickly and easily. Like, yeah, if it goes wrong, these are our backup plans. We'll foreclose on the property. We'll take this over. We'll do this. This is what we'll do. We'll do these different things. We'll be able to think. They'll actually have a plan. If someone gets offended by this question, that's a red flag. What do you mean? I mean, I know things. I have been doing this for a long time, and my character should stand for it. You get an answer like that. Ooh, watch out, red flag. Right? Ask about the underlying equity. How much equity is in there? Is it accessible in the event that something goes wrong? What evidence do you have that it's worth what we're saying? These questions are important for you to understand the investment and for you to listen to the way that the person is answering them. Ask about this one. This one's really important to understand. What is expected of me other than just putting my money in? What effort am I going to have to take? Make sure that your duties and the duties of the person you're investing with are both understood by both parties. If it goes wrong, am I going to have to step in? Am I going to have to be the one to foreclose? Am I going to have to be the one to fix this problem? You want to understand that. If you understand that, and the answer is yes, that doesn't mean not to do it. It means that, okay, this is what I have to do. And as long as you understand it and you're okay with that, then it's okay to move forward. The problem is whenever you do something and then, when it goes wrong, you have to fix it and you don't understand that and you didn't put that in your equation of risk. That's a possibility. Often in certain investments, there is a need for additional cash, and especially when something goes wrong. If it's a private placement, like an apartment complex, there might be a cash call to do additional improvements that they weren't planning on or foresee. If it's, let's say if it's just a property, that you're buying as your own property, all of a sudden you realize it does have a bad slab or something that you didn't see or couldn't tell. I'd think you'd see a bad slab, but whatever, it has something in there that you didn't see in there. Is there a possibility for additional cash? If it's a loan, if we have to foreclose, am I going to have to put up money for the attorney? Am I going to have to do the foreclosure, or is there someone else involved? Find out if there's a need for additional cash. This is an important one. And understand the timeline. And on all these questions, especially the timeline, I always ask for best case and worst case, most likely scenario. You've got to be able to live with worst case. You hope for best case and understand what you're probably going to get is in the center and make sure that makes sense. I will tell you, I've had investors do investments years and years ago into private placements into apartment complexes. And they were expecting a 4 to 5 year timeline. Market dramatically changed during this time. And what had happened is they had put all of their money or huge portions of their retirement into this one project. And guess what? It went way over because of other things. When I say way over, 6 to 7 years. They were in the investment for 10 to 12 years when they were expecting 3 to 5. What was the end result? They actually didn't have the money at the time that they needed to retire. I've seen this happen over and over again. Pay attention to worst case timelines. They do happen. We're asking these tough questions for a reason. And often the biggest test is if it sounds too good to be true, normally it is, right? Most bad elements have elements of truth, but also have elements of that are hard to verify. And there tends to be things that you can notice, though, like, we have to do this right away, really, really fast. We don't have time for a lot of these verification. Otherwise, we're going to miss this phenomenal opportunity that we'll never, ever be able to get again, right? And it's going to make you part of the cool crowd. That's it. I don't know. There's always tends to be something else in there that's pushed on, like you'll be able to do this over and over again. You're entering into this new world or whatever. Maybe there's unrealistic returns. It's going to pay 20% back in the very first month. Man, most of those things, dig in deeper. Be more cautious. a great quote from Quincy. It's better to lose your profit on a deal by not doing it than lose your principal by doing it. So I can tell you there's been a few deals that I've passed on that ended up being really good, but I still don't feel bad about it because there's been a few deals that I passed on that I'm really happy that I passed on. I've actually had a very conservative lifetime of investing because I've coattailed on my brother. And I understand most people don't have Quincy as a bigger brother. I know a lot of people think that Quincy's my dad. My God, I love that. Especially when I'm standing next to Quincy, because he's literally about a year and a half older than me. So when I say, "Oh, your dad," I'm anyway. He is not my dad; he's my brother. So, but he was a great big brother, and he did do a lot of things. Here is one that has got us in trouble over and over and over again, and I've seen so many people. I call it the infrastructure problem. You could have the best idea. You could have great people doing it, but the devil becomes in the details. Sometimes we've done investments. They've ended up having great return, but they needed a lot of monitoring. And because the investment was smaller, it didn't really produce that much return. All right. I'll give you some examples of infrastructure problems I see on things. One is, let's say, a rental property. Oh, I've always wanted a rental property. I love the concept of rental properties. I do. The idea of getting appreciation and cash flow in one investment. It's honestly, rental properties, when done right, is the highest paying category of investment of all times. Owning real estate, right, and getting rent on it is the highest return thing. Well, man, I want to participate in that. Well, guess what? You can, but if you don't have a good system for renting to people, if you don't have a good system when they don't make their payment, you don't have a good system for inventorying the house as it looks as it comes in, inventorying the house as it comes out, requiring the right deposits, getting the right background. In time, and even if you do all that, in time, you may have a bad renter. Bad renters make rental property bad really fast. They create a lot of hassle, a lot of worry, a lot of other things can go wrong with just very simple little mistakes. Like I didn't inventory problems with the house when they came in. Problems got much worse while they lived there, and you didn't have an inventory of both or whatever happened, right? Maybe not putting enough money aside for common repairs or maintenance or other things I've had. And over a period of time, you have a large amount of deferred maintenance. What makes appreciation in a rental property is not sucking it all out in rent. It's a balance between the rent and repairing the property so that it's continuously going up in value. Most small renters have issues with their rental property for these areas. They just don't vet the people right. They don't want to pay, I don't know, the 10% for a property manager or whatever it is. And you bog yourself down. You can bog yourself down with rental properties really fast. Some people like it. They like to be that, I call them station wagon. I guess it's SUV now, but station wagon investor. They go out there and paint the kitchen and tile the floor themselves and do all this stuff. That's great for some people, as long as you understand that is part of what created the investment to make it better. Let's go the other direction. How about a private placement? Man, these are good. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be good looking, have enough money to be a qualified investor, right? Or enough income in there, which is pretty easy to do in today's market. And boom, I can invest with all these other people who are good looking. I don't have to do too much. Honestly, some of my best investments have been passive investments into things. But it's important to understand what happens again when it goes wrong. And I think I already alluded to this. One of the biggest things is longer lifespans and cash calls. They do occur. Be aware of them. If you're using an IRA, you may have a limited amount of money. That could affect you have a cash call. But also, I think you have to have a real good understanding of that time frame. The time frame can really hurt. I kind of already gave that example. But one of the things I have, and I love to do deals with like Eddie Speed and some other people and things. And what are we doing? Sometimes what we're doing is we're complicated. What do we do? Well, we buy a note. It might be performing or unperforming note. Right? We might sell that note. We may owner finance it out. We might have payments. The note might be in different states because we go to the states that have the best category of notes, right? And you can crush it doing this. I mean, crush it. But you could lose all that profit if you don't have good infrastructure. And there's a lot of work intensity in those, right? We have to make sure that we're tracking the payments, and the payments are going out to the underlying bank, possibly, that there could be wraps, there could be this. Each one of these different ideas work great as long as you either have the time or you have hired and put people in place that have the time that can properly track these, especially if you're spreading it over several different states like I've done in the past. And the laws and regulations in states were in the past and got, I had people in Mississippi or whatever get behind in their payments. And it was really difficult without having boots right there on the ground to navigate some of the things, and didn't have the right infrastructure in place. And that eroded the profits. I didn't make the profits go away. It just increased the amount of work that I had to do. And eroded the profit. So complex investing is great when you take the time to set the infrastructure up to do it with it. Right. So I think that's an important thing to remember as you're looking at investment. I do a lot of lending, and now I am happy, honestly, sometimes to take a lower interest rate and buy a note from a loan servicer. What's Paul's in place? Paul the Greek. I buy notes from him. I buy
Talking about blank lending.
Yeah, blank lending. There's jet lending. You can go in and buy their notes after they do it. Well, what's happened? They've loaned it at a pretty high interest rate, and you're going to get a lower interest rate. They're going to make that difference. Plus, they're going to probably pick up some points and all that. You're like, well, I want the higher interest rate. Yeah, but the thing is when it does go into foreclosure, guess what? Steps in, pays me off, right? And it takes over the problem. So sometimes I'd rather have less interest rate and less work in my life. And I think that depends on where you were. When I was a younger man, I'd chase those high interest rates all the time. Why? Because I didn't have as much money. But as you get more money, it gets harder and harder to do that. So take time to understand what you need to put into it in order to make that work, and choose. In other words, it's a choice. You got to make it. Do I want 9%, and have someone else take care of the problem? Or do I want 12% and I take care of the problem? Either choice is okay as long as you consciously made the choice. You weren't forced into the choice by decisions that you didn't think about. And that's what I'm trying to get to. Think about your infrastructure in every single deal that you do. But here's one of my favorites is good on, and this is a Quincy's quote, though he says it all the time. I'm pretty sure that this quote is used all over the financial world, but good investing is understanding risk, but not avoiding it. Right. And that's what's important. We need to take the time to understand what we want as risk. Sometimes I see people going in an investment and say, well, I want to do this investment. What do you think about it? What I think is not important, to tell you the truth, because like I said, I'm risk averse to my time. I don't like to put a lot of time into my investments, which is different than who I was as a younger man. And this is something that's really hard to get across to somebody who's younger, like a lot of things, is to look forward to what it looks like in the future. But I could think of a bad investment Quincy did, and doesn't sound like a bad investment. Here we go, Colin. You'd think this is the greatest investment, where we found a little property, and because the economy was down a little bit those particular years, we were able to buy this house, and it was in pretty good shape, for about $40,000. All right. Now, it was in Michigan, and it had about, I think, 9 acres of land with it. So we're talking, I got a nice house, I got land, right, in a pretty nice area of Michigan. It wasn't like downtown Detroit or anything like that. And we thought we'd rent it and someday sell it in the future. Immediately, we were able to put a renter into it. And Colin, guess what? 17 years later, that renter's still in that property. We've been able to raise the rent, still living, and the property is worth all the money in the world. How could that be a bad investment? What do you guys think? Okay, here was the problem. What we did is when we did the investment, we were really involved in partnering. So what we did is we took his children's Coverdell education accounts, and they were a big portion of this. His children's Coverdell education accounts own this rental property that's producing. What's the problem? Well, Brianna graduated from college about 3.5 years ago, Colin. You get what I'm saying? The timeline on
there's some restrictions there for sure.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It didn't match the investment. So the problem wasn't with the investment, it was with the tool that we used improperly. Right? We didn't use the Coverdell for a short enough term of investment. You know, the other investments in there were some IRAs and stuff. Great for them. They have a long-term investment. But it kind of goes back to that same guy that did a private placement that took 12 years with most of his retirement account and ended up having to continue to work or have life-changing events because of it. You got to pay attention to timelines, right? And I was like, I sit on our 401k. We do investments here, private investment, our company 401k. And that's a phenomenal way to look at investments, which is quite a bit different than my personal investments. And why? Well, because it has an unlimited timeline. That 401k will continue to exist long after I've passed on. As long as Quest exists, it continues to exist. So you could take these infinite number of timelines, you know. Well, for example, we bought a waterfall in Hawaii at a good price in Maui, on land with waterfall on it, right? Man, you could sit on that forever in a 401k. You know what I mean? I just wait until it's just perfect that I want to sell it, you know? But you can't have those type of infinite timelines with your own personal thing. So understand that, and understand that your needs for right now is not going to be the same as your needs in the future. And that goes back to that infrastructure, right? Try to work your deals so that you put in as little work as possible now, because in the future you will probably even want to do less work. It just happens as you get older. Trust me, you just want to do less. I know you don't believe me as young as you are, Colin, but it's going to happen. And then there's one thing: treat every investment as an opportunity to learn something. And that should be actually part of your calculation as your investment. Oddly, to this day, Quincy does investments that I would not touch. Why? And he'll do an investment for $15,000 into something, and it sometimes is work intensive. And I'm like, why are you doing that? It's like, I want to learn something new. I haven't done this for a little bit of time. Right? He bought a rental property that was rough. I'm like, Quincy, managing like a rental property, you know, let me get a manager. Nope, I want to do it. I want to remember what it was like to feel that pain of finding those things and stuff. And so for him, a value of an investment isn't just the return of investment, but also the return of knowledge on that investment. And this is especially key when you're doing one of the favorite things I like to do, which is partnering with your children. When you bring your children into this, and you know this because your mom was a real estate investor you grew up that way, right? That's how we found each other, right? When you got out of college, that's how we knew. Your mom had been doing this and been a Quest client for a long time.
Yeah, they'd been flipping houses for as long as I can remember. So yeah, I've always been exposed to it.
So you know what I mean? But that bringing your child into it is really an important time to do those investments that teach you things, you know? And I really enjoyed that about you, Colin, is when you came to us you were an intern before being an IRA specialist. When you came to us as a young man, I could have a full-fledged investment and conversation with you. And when I would talk to a normal person of that age, they'd just look at me like right through me, like glazed eyes. And so remember, in college, they're not teaching this stuff. In school, they're not teaching this stuff.
That's right.
Right. As parents, this is probably one of the most important lessons, other than, teaching them to be moral and good and all those other things, but it's also teaching them how to be good with money. And how you do that is not tell them, but show them by partnering with them on an investment. And remember, calculate that education as part of your return on your investment, and you'll be happier with your investment overall. You really will, right? Because I know I get mad. I put all this time into this, and Quincy's response to me, but look what you learned, and he's right. It's like, So anyway, I hope this has been a little bit helpful. The last thing that Quincy always says is, don't get too involved, though, in the analysis. Don't get too involved. Just sometimes got to jump up and do it, because especially in an inflationary period, just letting your money sit there is just going broke safely. Right? Investing is understanding risks, not avoiding them. Take the time, do the investment, do the due diligence, and make sure you take a little time and enjoy it and learn something. And once you do that, wealth building just happens all on itself. Once you reach that point where you're actually enjoying investing, they're not creating your stress, even the problems are fun. It just makes the whole process better. It's one of the things we call it fun IRAs, because it really is fun having control over your own retirement through the course of self-direction. Anyway, that's all I have. You want to close it down for me, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll open it up now for Q&A. It looks like we may have a couple questions that came in from the viewers. So I guess I'll kind of get started, guys. If you do have questions, please post it down in the chat. And then we've got maybe 10 minutes or so, 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. So first one, Nathan, is what would you say your favorite Quincy-ism is? Your favorite Dr. No quote, if you will.
It's got to be, if it sounds too be good to be true, it is. I mean, we see people come to us all the time and it's such a hurry to fund this investment. And it's like, oh, Lord, it's better to slow down. And we know this from experience, personal experience. Like we've gotten involved in the excitement before, and it didn't turn out happy for us. But it's really hard to, we're that neutral third party, so we can't say, if it's invested right and it's not prohibited, we have to process it. We can't tell you don't do that. That's dumb. That's not our role. So sometimes it's walking that line. I just wish that sometimes people would slow down a little bit, as they do things. Most people have a feeling something might not be right and go ahead, which I think is really an interesting phenomenon.
It certainly puts us in a pretty precarious situation when dealing with things like that. Even, it's the deals that you find to be the best of the best. Sometimes, you just need to take a step back and slow it down and really evaluate what it's going to look like, years down the road. So,
and then I think the other thing that Quincy says that's super wise is the last thing that I went to, which was enjoy it. If you're not going to enjoy this investment, if it's going to keep you up at night, don't do it. Right? But at the same time, just relax. Part of the return is the investment. Part of the joy is the ride, right? And you'll learn that after doing a couple. The first one always makes everybody nervous. It really does. But if you treat it as a chance to learn, a chance to do things, a chance to network and stuff, you're never going to be able to run with the big dogs if you stay on the porch, right? So it does involve getting to that uncomfortable place. And Quincy, in his unique way, has pushed all of us to that uncomfortable place. And that's one of the things that makes Quest so great, is we've gotten used to if you're an employee of Quest, you're used to change, right? And you're used to feeling uncomfortable. Am I wrong?
That's very right. Yeah.
And you're forced to educate yourself. If you don't continue to educate yourself, you can't continue to work here. We all have to get better. And we've surrounded ourselves with people that emulate that. And I think that's what makes Quincy a really great man. And why Quest is so cool, because it's a reflection of that side of Quincy's character.
Yeah, absolutely. Quincy is certainly a proponent of being a lifelong learner, as they say. One other thing I found really interesting, you were talking about different people's time horizons and investment objectives. Whether you're 20 or you're 60, each person is going to have a different risk tolerance and level that they are comfortable with. One question I have is how long did it take you to find your preferred risk level, right? Was it a certain amount of deals? Was it, after a period of time, or was it?
I think it's like anything else. It's like growing up, you mature your taste buds, you mature your taste for significant others, right? All that changes over time. I certainly wouldn't want to be married to my first girlfriend right now in my life, if you know what I mean, so I think when you're young, you're happy with more risk, and that's actually okay, because you have longer to fix things and you have less money at risk.
Absolutely.
All right. So as you get older, that becomes more astute, that your responsibilities grow, the amount that you're investing grows, right? And the value of your time grows. If I had anything I could go back in time and tell my younger self, it would be to value my time more. Nobody values your time until you value your time. Once you start to value your time more, others will value it. And therefore, it becomes better. You'll structure your deals better. When you take that time as part of it, you can get educated without working yourself to death, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important to consider, whether you're, somewhere in your 20s, as Nathan, you like to remind me, or somebody who's a lot older. So I think that's all the questions we have here today. So Nathan,
cool.
really appreciate you covering this topic and kind of diving into some of these different Quincy quotes and really how to decipher them. So
I was just trying to have some fun. I hope it was helpful for you guys. One of the things I will always encourage everybody to do is take some time to sit down and talk to one of our certified IRA specialists. They have a vast amount of knowledge that you don't get from other places. They see more deals than most people, and it's good just to know one. Just pick up the phone and have hey, it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to be a client, right? You could just be looking to raise money, or just looking to improve your education. Pick up and just call an IRA specialist. We live in this world where we're frightened to make a phone call. We want to send this email and all this stuff, but true understanding comes when two people are talking. When you talk on our chat, by the way, it's not active in non-business hours, because our chat is really manned by IRA specialists at Quest. So you're actually going to, if you have a quick question, put it on the chat. They'll respond like that to you, and it's a real person. And then if you have confusion, they'll pick up the phone and talk to you. So just something to say. Like I said, it helps you to think through your deals sometimes if you can just, talk to them or with somebody that has knowledge outside of the normal field of knowledge that's out there.
Absolutely. We actually, in that time, we did have one more question come through. So I'll go ahead and put that up here. Nathan, what do you think about using a self-directed IRA for lending on a manufactured home?
Oh, I love it. I've done it a lot myself. You got to make sure that it goes back to the infrastructure, right? Mobile homes are great because you have more profit, more money, different things as you go in. But if you're going to loan on the mobile home, what's going to happen in the worst case scenario? What's going to happen in the case of default? Well, I'm probably going to have to gain title to that depending on what state it's in. I'm going to be taking title, often like I take title to a car. Then that's going to transfer into my IRA as a piece of property. And this is personal property, not real property. So when I resell it, I could have unrelated business income tax that affect me inside my IRA. That could be a complexity that I want to look into and understand. Doesn't mean you don't do it. It means that you understand it before you go do it. All right. And those are just things that I think about when you do lending on mobile homes. I really like when I'm doing a lending on a mobile home. I like it to be attached to a piece of land because then I'm lending on real estate and it changes the dynamics a little bit. Okay. But I have done the straight lending on mobile homes. When I do that, I try to deal with people that are a little bit more, I don't personally, this is Nathan personally, I don't like to lend people living in the house ever. That's whether it's a mobile home or real estate. I don't like to be in the business of kicking someone out of the house if they don't pay, right? The dog and the 3 kids. I have no problem taking a house from an investor. So it depends on how you're lending. If you're lending to the person who's buying the house to stay into it, that's work intensive. That has a high level of needing to foreclose, and you need to understand that, and you need to know what to do when you foreclose. If I'm lending to an investor that's then renting out to people, right? There's a layer in between me and Biff, Miffy, and little dog Muffy. I like that better myself. I just think it creates a happier Nathan. So hopefully that helps. Ritu?
Yeah, great. Another one here. Now there's a few more questions now. Well, this is the last one we have as right now. How can I get started raising money for my next round of single family investments using Quest?
What you do is you start with one. You come to a Quest event. Colin will give you a list.
Yes.
These are the live ones. 2, at the event, tell people that you're looking for money and why. And 3, when they ask you about it, be ready for them to say yes. I did a great class. I don't know if it's still out there. I haven't done it for a while. But I talk specifically about how to raise money for single family, what to say, what not to say, where to go. And one of the big things to understand is the people who have money don't stand up in the class and go, I have money to lend, right? That's not how it works. They're there. You've got to find them. And in order to do that, it's like, now, here's the thing. It needs to be like a laser. You need to really focus in when you're looking for money for single family investing. Why? Well, because you don't need a ton of investors. You need a couple of good ones, and they'll tend to fund you for everything that you need. So pay very close attention to your relationship building. Colin, if you get a chance, you could ask Katie, she'll know what that speech is, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. Maybe you can send it directly to Mike, and it would be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's called How to Raise Private Money.
Okay. Mike, shoot me an email, and we can kind of get in touch about that. We have, I'll send you a list of our upcoming classes too, because we do stuff all across Texas, Houston, Dallas, Austin, sometimes even in San Antonio.
People love lending money on single family houses here in Texas. So are you in Texas? Is he in Texas? Do we know?
Mike, if you if you want to put a comment in there, or just let me know in the email. Either way.
But if you're in Texas, there's people that have done that for a living for a very, very long time, and then it kind of dried up over the last few years. So if you've got homes that have good equity that you're looking to lend, and you're in Houston, I see now, man. It's not that hard, right? Just follow Colin's things, right? Come to the events. If you got a deal, you'll find a lender.
Yep, absolutely. Shoot me an email, Mike. We'll get you registered. We have 2 events every month here in Houston, as well as.
And what do you charge for those events, Colin?
completely free. So please utilize those. You can here. I'll just put
No,
my
it's
my
you had
email
your
in the chat.
put your email in the chat. It was up there earlier. That's the IRA specialist one.
Yeah, here's my specific email. Guys, please, I think that's the last question we have. But like Nathan was saying, leverage the IRA specialists and Quest. Give us a call. We can figure out how Quest is able to help you, right? No matter what it is. So yeah, pleasure, Mike. And then Ritu also said, thank you for answering her question earlier in regards to lending. So I think
Appreciate you guys.
yeah, I think that's about all the questions we have today. So as I was saying before, Nathan, really
Thank
appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk today. And with that, I'll let you leave any parting words of wisdom if you'd like.
Oh, I just appreciate every bit of you guys. This has been a tough years for a lot of businesses, a lot of families, and a lot of investors. And a lot of us came out really strong and on top. And the way you're able to do that is good structure, good morals, right? Always let morals guide you in your investments as well as your greed. You need both. So, but if you guide yourself to that, you'll find that this is going to be one of the best times to be an investor are these upcoming years. I really feel turbulent times make great opportunity.
Well, thank you guys so much. We'll go ahead and close it out. The recording should be posted here the first few minutes. Your son just walked in here, by the way, Nathan. Not sure what he was doing.
Hi, son.
The recording should be posted here in just a few short minutes. So if you guys need to refer back to anything, please utilize that. Leverage us, and we really appreciate you all coming out here today.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.